Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. Good times for all, or Zachary Zabala here if you prefer. Over the last few videos I've done, we've been covering a book, The Complete Guide to Saving Seeds from Story Publishing, Storey. Very informative book. I've been gardening almost a decade now, and just over the last few live streams, I've learned quite a bit of knowledge. Hey, Liz. Hope you're having a wonderful day, ma'am. Yeah, I've learned a lot of things that I just didn't know about seeds and how to gather them. So I wanted to continue sharing this information with you, especially for those who are just starting out gardening. Um, the more you comprehend your plants, you know, the more of a relationship you can establish with them. And then, ooh, storms. Yeah, I hear you guys have been having some crazy weather up there in Scotland lately. Um, good. Yeah, it's too much rain can also be a bad thing. You want to make sure your soil has um, the ability to leach itself of too much water. That's why whenever I know people are, hey, Daz, what's up, brother? When I know people are growing out of pots, it's so important to make sure that your pots have holes in them. And really, the best way to water a pot is to have a tray underneath it um, that goes up around the edge, higher than your hole, and to just keep that tray somewhat filled. If the water is real moist on top, and you can tell, you don't have to add any water, but you'll see it starting to dry out. The color of your soil will start to change. It'll get lighter. And once that starts happening, you just fill your tray up again, and that water will be absorbed by the plant and the roots and the soil itself. It doesn't have to have a plant in it to absorb the water, but this helps in a couple different ways. Um, Mainly, it promotes root growth. The roots have to grow down into the soil to get to the water. Um, it also, when you water on top, the roots don't have to go anywhere. The water is, I mean, falling right on top of them. And it doesn't your plants, spread out and grow. Um, it's just as important to have a good root system underneath the soil as it is to have big plants on top. It gives it a chance to grab more nutrients out of the soil. It's Remember, the top of the plant is only half of the plant. No, I have not talked about the potato yet. Um, if you guys like, we can cover that one next. But yeah, knowing the plants that you're growing really helps. It really, let's see, I guess we could start on, oh, hmm, they don't have potatoes in here. What is that all about? Let me go check the back. It might be in a different section. I figured it would be under vegetable, but pollination, pomegranates, poppies, potato, Irish potato. Says C. Solanum tuberosum. 261. Okay. Looks like I'm going to learn something new again. Ah. Okay, I'm sorry. 261 tells you all about pine cones and stuff like that. Um, I am kind of stumped here. Let's let's see. Potatoes. It says to look up the portulaca. Or no, potentilla. Yeah, okay, we're in potentilla. Um, the potato, it says, this is where it's telling me to look, is part of the rose family, actually. The flowers are perfect and open from early summer to frost. The fruit is a persistent etching. Not sure. Seed clean. That's all it says for seed collection. But yes, potatoes will flower. The way to get more potatoes is actually when you start to see those little flower pods form, you cut the top of that off. Um, I talked about this in an early video. To keep your plants in the grow stage much longer, you don't let them mature fully. It sounds really, evil, stunting their growth like that, but it will definitely produce, especially with potatoes and really any of your leafy stuff that you're growing, the salads, things like that. Once they start to produce that flower, the leaves aren't going to produce anymore. Yeah, what was your question there, Daz? Sorry I missed it. I'm on a cell phone and I don't get to see it too long. Um, but if you clip off the top when it starts to bud, it stops the plant from maturing and it will still produce more potatoes. That's a good way. That's why when potatoes start breaking through the soil, the leafy greens, it's good to throw something over those again. And you never let it get the leaves gather a whole lot of sunlight. As long as you keep covering up those potatoes, they'll keep producing more potatoes. And the ones that are down in the soil already will get bigger. Once they flower though, and that flower opens up, you're pretty much done. You can kind of, I mean, the potatoes might get a little bit bigger after that. I'm not 100%, but you're pretty much done once that flowering starts. From from my first, yeah. Which plants were you did you have? We can go through them right now. The potatoes, real quick. It really doesn't say a whole lot. It says nothing about keeping them heirloom or anything like that. Okay, you want to grow the same cucumber plant. I believe we covered the cucumber. It's part of the squash family yesterday, but we can go over it real quick, and I'll give you the breakdown. I mean, that's why we're here. Let me see. Oh, these are herbs. Okay. Yeah, the cucumber. Now, if you want to grow heirloom, the exact same one, it might already be too late to get an heirloom, simply because you have to cover up the flowers and keep them from other bugs coming and pollinating them. They have the imperfect flowers. The male flowers will appear first, and plants usually produce more male flowers than female. Okay, there'll be more male flowers at the beginning and more female at the end of the season. Some plants will be all female, male, and perfect flowers, or all male. And the hermaphroditic kind have all perfect flowers. Some of them may be seedless, and it is not possible to save seeds from these varieties. It says, be sure to know which sexual type you are planting. Um, I'm not sure how that's done. Now, to isolate your cucumbers, which is if you want to keep that same exact flavor without cross-pollinating other plants, um, again, you want to cover your plant. You don't really want to pick any of the fruit at all. Um, you'll want to hand pollinate, it says, to ensure seed purity. If anybody's growing cucumbers within 1.5 miles around, bees can travel around and pollinate that cucumber plant, therefore cross-pollinating it with another type, and then you don't have that same type of cucumber. And if it's with a different type of plant, a lot of plants will cross-pollinate with other plants. You can create some really weird-looking vegetables. I cross-pollinated what was it? A jalapeno with a banana pepper, and it turned out real funky. Okay, so to collect the seeds on your cucumber plant, you select a large, overripe fruit for seed saving and allow them to ripen on or off the vine in a cool, dry place for at least 5 weeks after eating stage, until they have turned yellow, white, orange, brown in color, depending on the type. Now see, that is one that is about ready to store. Hey Anthony, how you doing, brother? Yeah, this is information that a lot of people are interested in right now. Starting your garden, collecting your seeds, and now's the time of year to start looking into collecting seeds. If you didn't cover them and get them all ready, they won't be heirloom, but you can still gather seeds and see what you get. You can even cross-pollinate seeds with other flowers to put new tastes and fragrances into them. Plants are amazing. They are just as adverse and different as the animal kingdom is. Thanks, brother. Yeah, your motto, your creed is something I try to say almost every live stream I do about plants, and food is your medicine, medicine is your food. The the more love and care and intent, good intent you put into your plants, you're going to get that intent back. Maybe even, multiple times that. Because that plant, I mean, we have dominion over this place. We can manipulate it with our thoughts and our intention. Um, a lot of people have done the rice experiment and shown that, yeah, if you tell something you love it and you mean it, it it stays fresh. It I don't know how to say it. It just, that intent of trying to keep it pure holds longer. And if you hate that plant or you ignore that plant, it won't be healthy. It'll have more chances to for bugs and pests to invade it. So treat your plant like you would your pet. Love it, and it'll love you back. So remember, collecting the seeds, you want them to be overripe. You don't want a fresh green looking cucumber anymore. You want it to be yellow. It says, depending on what kind, yellow, white, orange, or brown. They all, depending on what cucumber type you have. And you want it to be soft. You don't want it to be nice and firm and hard. Even if it is yellow or white, they can still be firm. And you want to, like it said, at least 5 weeks after they have turned yellow is when you want to start trying to collect the seeds. In the frosty areas of the north, let the vines winter kill to reveal the fruits. So that means once it starts getting cold out and gets frosted, a lot of the vines are going to dry up and shrivel. Hey, Winston. Welcome, friend. Okay, and you can even let it fall off the vine where it naturally breaks from the vine. So you select your big ones, your strong ones, and you want to store them in a cool, dry place for several more weeks to complete their ripening. So it's, you know, 9 weeks after you would have eaten this thing is when you go to harvest the seeds. So it's always good to have some type of root cellar if you can. I have a book on actually making homemade root cellars. We can start going over that one here pretty soon as well, because now's the time to build it. So yeah, that's another book we can start going over here. Maybe I'll do like an afternoon thing. I like doing them in the morning when it's cool. Midday, it's no fun to be out here. It's still fun. I'm still out here, but just sitting in the sun sweating. So maybe later on in the evening, we'll start doing the root cellaring book on how it's so easy. There's so many different ways of preserving your foods. There's a lot of different types of cucumbers. A pickle is a type of cucumber, and if you pick a pickle, it's not going to get much longer than 6-7 inches. Most pickles don't grow longer than 5-6 inches. I have had some giants get real round. Up underneath a windowsill, it was like square. It was only that long, and it was like that round. So yeah, the pickle will only grow so long, but it will get real big. So you have to really keep an eye on your pickles. Once they get that big, they're really hard to can and do all different kinds of stuff with. So the cleaning the seed. You extract the seeds from the fruit by scooping them out and rinsing them, or fermenting them as described under pulpy fruits on page 44. Let's go take a look at that real quick. Working with fleshy fruits, there are a variety of methods for removing seeds from fleshy fruits. For large fruits such as pears and peaches, simply open the fruit and pick out the seeds. For many types of fleshy fruits, such as magnolia, tomatillos, and apples, you can use food blender. Cover the blades with yeah, I don't, that just doesn't sound right to me. Okay, pulpy fruits. Here's the one for cucumber. That was for more, just the straight fleshy fruit. For a cucumber, squash, melon, and tomato, slice the fruit lengthwise and scoop out the seeds and jelly-like pulp into a container. Add an equal amount of water and allow the container to sit for 3 to 6 days. That's the fermenting process. 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 to 21 degrees Celsius, out of direct sunlight. So you don't want them sitting out in the sun. Stirring twice daily to prevent fungal growth on the surface. Viable seeds will sink and the placental material will disintegrate by fermentation. If the soluble solids in the water are high, then the specific gravity is also high, which may cause some viable seeds to float. To remedy this, change the water several times. That makes sense. Once the water remains clear, you can be confident that most of the floating seeds are not non-viable. Now again, I don't know how true that is. And you may pour them off. So when I try this, I'm going to do some testing, and we'll keep the floaters and the sinkers. We'll separate them and see how many of them germinate. And then what the actual plant looks like. Again, I need to start taking notes. You can garden without notes. You can garden without books. And you'll have good years and bad years. That's how I did it the first 4 or 5 years. And then I started looking into information, and my gardens really started, like I say in most of my videos, go with what your gut tells you. When it says that does, like putting them in a blender, that sounds like not the greatest idea to me. Um, so I probably won't even try that one. It just doesn't resonate. When something does resonate with you, though, apply that. At least try it. You know, have your control and have your new thing that you're trying, and then see what the results are. It may take a few seasons to even get any result, if there will be any at all. Um, Remember, you're an alchemist. We all are. We can all try things and add things, and just because you have an idea that somebody else or some book says is crazy and you shouldn't do that. I mean, look at most of the information we get nowadays is totally backwards. So never doubt your gut. At least give it the benefit of the doubt, of a doubt, to at least try what your gut is telling you to do. You know, don't apply it to everything, but test it. You may find a totally new thing that nobody's ever done before, and you can be the first person. You can be the one that, you know, finds this knowledge and gets to share it with everybody else. So listen to your gut. It's important. Okay, keep in mind that just because seeds sink does not mean they will all germinate, but they do have a much better chance of viability than do floaters. After discarding floating seeds and plant material, rinse the good seeds. An alternative is simply to remove the seeds from the fruit and place them in a strainer. Rinse off all the pulp you can. The germination percentage of seeds that you clean this way will be a little lower because the technique doesn't separate out non-viable seeds. So it's worth it just to try. You might hear the boys shuffling in the background. Cammy just came out and they always get excited when she gets up. Okay, so whichever method you try, dry them afterward on a screen, cookie sheet, or paper towel in a warm, well-ventilated area. Okay, cucumbers are a warm, well-ventilated. Now we have those that need to be, you know, kept moist and cool. They all are different, just like we are, just like the animal kingdom is. It's so diverse and different. The plant kingdom is no different. So for cucumber seeds, it says a warm, dry place. Again, you may want to try something different. Yeah, exactly. Need to connect. They tell us a lot of things, and if your gut is telling you something different, I would at least, you know, apply what your gut is saying and test it. Hashtag test it. It's so important. Stir occasionally so they dry evenly. When all are dry, fold up in a paper with the seeds and put it into an envelope in a cool, dry place now. Now, once they're dry, we want them in a cool, dry place, not a warm, dry place. Small bits of paper that cling to the seeds will make no difference in germination. So, transplanting. When you go to germinate them, do not plant before the soil has reached at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 degrees Celsius. I'm sure that's meant to say. It has an F behind it, but to 95 to 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, the maximum optimal soil temperature for planting cucumbers. Now that's the first time I've seen a maximum temperature of where they say you don't really want it to be higher than this. Okay, freshly collected cucumber seeds may have a dormancy that must be broken by storage for at least 84 days. So the seed may have to mature more even after you start storing it. Haven't heard that about any other plants. Transplanting cucumbers, It's pretty easy. They have a nice stout stem when they first come up. Your peppers, your tomatoes, things like that. The stem is real skinny when it first pops out. The plant looks so small. Whereas your cucumbers, your zucchini, your squash, they have a nice thick vine, probably 10 times the size of these smaller plants. Um, Take care not to disturb the roots, of course. You don't want to be touching them with the oils on your hands. Make sure your hands are nice and dirty or you have clean gloves on. I prefer nice dirty hands. Take that soil and rub it all over your hands. Get it in all the cracks. And that will kind of put a barrier between the oils of your hands and the plant roots. Do not disturb the roots as tips do not regenerate easily. Yeah, that's why you be very careful, especially when they're babies. Use fiber pots, fiber pellets, and other types of pots that will decompose when buried. Allow about 4 weeks to grow good transplants. So about a month before you want to put them in the garden, you can start your babies inside. Um, I've shown transplanting myself of the cucumbers, and I had been growing them in little plastic trays. You just have to be careful. You pull the roots out um, very gently. I usually hold on to the stalk right near the base, and a lot of that dirt will clump right in there with it. You don't have to use the fiber pots. I know people that love them, but they will disintegrate. But I like to kind of spread my, because sometimes your roots will be all jammed up in those pots. They'll be wrapped around the inside of that pot all the way around it. Until those fibers get loose enough and decompose enough, it can't break through. So myself, excuse me, I like to pull them out of the plant, out of the pot. That's Walt would say. I love that. So yeah, I like out of the pot, and even with a nice dirty hand, I'll like break the roots up a little bit if they are all growing up and wrapped around each other. I'll let them spread out a little bit, set them in the ground, and then gently put dirt all around them, and then cover them up nice and good after that. So yeah, it's all dependent on how you want to do it. So that is the cucumber again. I don't mind going over. If we've gone over ones in previous videos, I'm not going to tell you, oh, we'll just go back and watch this video. Because every time I read this stuff, I learn something new as well. So many books that I've read multiple times, every time I read them, I learn something new. Because you're a new person. Your eyes have hopefully opened a little bit more. And you see new things. You remember new things. So if you'd like me to jump around and do one I've already done, don't mind that at all. Just shout them out. Next on our list, if there are nobody looking for any certain type of vegetable or plant that they're growing right now, we were going to do the carrot. It is part of the parsley family. It is a biennial. Again, biennial meaning you can plant it 2 different times throughout the season and harvest them twice. You can plant them in early spring and again in late summer maybe, and you'll get 2 different harvests. The seed viability, it says, is 3 years. Again, we're going to test that. I have seeds that are well over 8 years old, and I think some of them will probably be just fine. We'll see. Seeds are amazing. Dandelion seeds, those little tiny fragile things, can lay out in the weather, in the elements, for 7 years before germinating. So trying to keep certain plants out of your garden is hard. That's why removing these plants, these weeds, as people like to call them, weeding the garden. I don't like that word. That is the worst 4-letter word in the English vocabulary, in my opinion. None of these plants are weeds. They all have purposes. They all have uses that we can apply. Really That's like a, that's, yeah, it's just not right. But anyway, I digress. And saving seeds, it's you try to save them from 10 or more plants. So the flowering of a carrot. Carrot flowers are perfect and born in compound umbrellas made of secondary clusters called umbellets. Carrots plants require a cool temperatures to flower, and the flowers are insect pollinated. So from one plant to another, all the times I've planted carrots, I don't know if I pulled them too early or what, but I've never seen a carrot flower. Um, Maybe you have to leave them in for longer. I've only tried to grow carrots a couple times. I'm not the biggest fan of carrots, so I would give most of them away, but so I don't have a whole lot of um, wisdom with growing carrots. Carrot varieties will cross-pollinate. Again, cross-pollination. You have two different types of carrots. They can, a bug, insect can land on one and grab some pollen off that, go to another one, grab some pollen, and now these two different types of carrots, if you gather those seeds, will create, well, create a new fruit. Cross-pollination. And carrots will also cross-pollinate with Queen Anne's lace. It's a really pretty flower. It's big, usually white, has thousands probably of flowers on each stem, all emanating from this one point, and it makes a beautiful circle. So be sure to keep your carrot plants for seed saving at a safe distance from other cultivated or wild carrots that are in bloom. Now is I've always heard it was poisonous. And I've never really read that in a book or anything, so take that what you will, but yeah, from a lot of people I've always heard Queen Anne's lace is poisonous. You don't want to try to eat any part of it. So I don't know what that would do, cross-pollinating with the carrot. Caging with introduced pollinators or alternate day caging, which is just keeping the plant fully covered on this day, taking it off the next to let, I don't know how that would stop cross-pollinations, but some people practice that. Okay, recommended isolation distance is 2 miles. Again, insects travel a long distance throughout the day. Carrots and other members of their family may be hand pollinated. Now, collect the seeds of a carrot. The seed is a fruit called an indehiscent merocarp. That's an ugly name, kind of. Which is paired with another to form a schizocarp. Yeah, Schizocarp. Carrot seed is small and very light. Yes, they are teeny tiny, folks. Harvest individual umbellets as they start to brown. The top one, primarily, not always, will ripen first. Or you can harvest the entire umbel when the primary and secondary umbellets are brown, and hang it upside down in a dry location to allow the rest to dry for 1 to 3 weeks, depending on your humidity of your location. So again, once you see the little pods start to form and turn brown, remember you want it to turn brown while the plant is still in the ground. If it's not fully mature, it won't transfer all that information into the seed that it needs to do for that seed to then have the knowledge to grow another plant. If you want to harvest until all of the umbellets are brown, if you wait, the first to ripen will shatter in the garden. If you choose to leave the plant in the garden until all umbellets dry, bag the entire umbel to catch the seeds as they shatter. In fact, you might cover hanging plants with the bag as well to catch the shattered seeds. The primary and secondary umbellets usually produce the best seed. Cure from 4 to 5 days in hot, dry locales, and for at least 2 weeks in more humid locations. So you want to let them hang in the bag or down or however you collect your seeds for another good, at least 4 to 5 days in the hot, dry places, but at least 2 weeks in the more humid locations. Seed cleaning and storage. When stems become brittle, rub seed heads by hanging by hand to remove seed, or place the head in a bag and flail. See, now, the other seeds they told us we could, strike it up against the side of something. Where this one says to just kind of flail it around. Your carrot seeds are very delicate. They don't have that super hard shell like a lot of the other seeds do. Screen carefully to remove plant material. You may debeard the seed if desired, but doing it will not affect germination. I'm supposing that's the little hairs that grow on them. Prior to planting your carrot, okay, this is just if diseases have been an issue in the garden from before. This doesn't sound something like I would try, but you hold your carrot seeds in 122 degrees Fahrenheit water or 50 degrees Celsius water for 15 to 20 minutes, and that will help with seed-borne diseases. Germination. Carrot seed in general has a low germination percentage. Optimum soil temperature for germination is 50 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 to 29 degrees Celsius. So quite a wide range there. I believe that's the widest we've seen so far. So once the soil temperature hits 50 degrees, you can actually, transplant your carrots if you do grow them start them off early. The seed is slow to germinate, so many home growers mix carrot seeds with radish seeds to mark the rows. And I can attest to that. Carrots being one of the last things you'll see sprouting. Most people do direct seed their carrots into the garden and do not try to transplant them. Although, like I said, I have transplanted them before and it worked. Now, overwintering carrots. Whoa, that was a big guy. Carrots require exposure to a cold period, usually winter, to induce flowering. That's probably why I've never seen a carrot flower. I always start them off early and I never would let them go all the way through to the fall. How to manage your crop for successful flowering and seed production. In northern areas, your first year, plant carrots in May and June. Carefully dig the stecklings in mid-October and remove tops, leaving 1 to 2 inches above the roots. Then store in a cool, about 35 degrees Fahrenheit or 2 degrees Celsius, dark, so we want cool, dark, and humid location, such as in damp sawdust or sand in barrels with layers of straw between the roots. Again, I'm going to start going over that root cellaring book, and a lot of this stuff that it's saying in here, it says in that root cellaring book. Now, when you find things that are in multiple books, that's a good indication that multiple people have had success applying that method. Just something to look out for. In areas with mild winters, you can plant carrot seeds in midsummer and overwinter in place, covered with mulch. So you can overwinter. Now, I'm not sure, we'll look in here and I'll read ahead further. But you don't have to even pull them out of the ground. Right where they are, you just cover them with mulch and you let them sit. Using this method, however, does not allow you to select for desired characteristics, such as size, leaf development, and zoning. You may choose to carefully dig and select stecklings in the fall, then replant them right away where they were previously. So if you want to gather seeds from your biggest, strongest plants, or that have certain characteristics, maybe shape. You can actually pull them out of the ground, get a good look at them again, make sure your hands are nice and dirty. There's going to be roots all over that carrot. Make sure none of the oil from your hands touches those roots. You can take a look at them and then instantly kind of put them back into the ground, mark that one to know, okay, this is the one I want to collect seeds from. I'm not going to disturb this until the spring. And then year 2, if you stored them like you would up north, replant sound ones in early to mid-spring, slightly deeper than they were growing previously, at about 2 feet apart in the row. Now this is for gathering seeds. You want to give them a lot of space. Carrots can be planted a couple inches apart, but for gathering seeds, oh, thanks, Winston. You want at least 2 feet. So maybe having your one garden and then having a separate area just for production of seeds. 1 to 2 plants of each kind. Yeah. If you have the room, it'd probably be a good thing to do. Yeah, and be sure to thin them to this spacing. Because usually when you plant carrot seeds, we would just make a row and you just sprinkle them in there. That's why I like to do mine in the small starter cups, because they're real skinny and small and they pop up all together in bunches. So you want to take that one individual thing and then space it out to 2 inches. So that's why I like doing it. I'll actually take my hoe or my rake or shovel, whatever, in the other end, that little hole, that little rod, and I'll have my soil nice and tilled to where it's real loose, and I'll just make little holes every so often, and I'll go through and pick out individual carrots and place them into those holes. So remember, 2 feet apart if you're wanting this for just collecting seeds. If roots overwintered in the garden, in your warmer places, be sure to thin them to this spacing. So if you had them in a nice row and you just had them marked and they weren't really thinned out, you can go there back in the spring and kind of pull out the ones that don't look great. That's why I like doing my carrots in the small little things. The plants will resume growth and send up flower stalks. So you, like it said, for the wintering, you're not going to get the flower stalks until that plant has been introduced to a cold spell of some sort. So you need that cold for the flowering even to start on a carrot. The germination, oh, we already went over that. 50 to 85 degrees, your soil temperature. You can get a ground thermometer for real cheap, 20 bucks or so. No problem. Okay. The next one in our list will be cauliflower. Unless there's a special one out there anybody wants me to cover, we're going to jump right into cauliflower. We've covered much of the mustard family. I don't want to say much of it, but a lot of the plants that I've covered in the previous videos have been part of the mustard family. So this may say most of them the mustard family. Cabbage, they'll say they really covered cabbage in here. They'll say refer to cabbage for most of your information, and we've covered cabbage, but it will give you the certain little things that may be different. So if anybody in the chat would like me to go back over the cabbage real quick, I can do that. If not, I'll just move on and continue with the cauliflower. Just shout it out if you really want me to cover that one. So cauliflower is closely related to cabbage and requires similar treatment to that of cabbage seed production and collection. Yeah, right here it says refer to cabbage entry for details. But we should warn you though that getting cauliflower to produce seeds can be tricky in cold northern areas. Awesome. So if you're up north, getting your cauliflower can be difficult to get it to produce the seeds. Read on to learn some key differences between cauliflower and cabbage. Again, we have crop alert. Do not harvest curds from cauliflower plant intended for seed production. So like many other plants, I don't know why this is a crop alert, it says if you're going to use this plant to gather seeds, don't harvest from this plant at all. So that's why it'd be a good idea to have your garden for eating and producing your food, and then having another garden that is just for seed collection. That way you don't accidentally go and harvest something and, mess with the plant in any way. Pretty much when you're gathering seeds, it's good to not disturb that plant. That plant, you don't want to put any extra trauma or... Yeah, they must harvest it real early, the cauliflower. Um, it even shows a cauliflower bud cluster right here. Let me try to get a better view with that sun shining on me there. It's kind of hard. But yeah, I'm just going to turn it around. Here we go. I'll try to do it like this. But that is your cauliflower bud cluster right there. It's almost purple. Yeah, that's weird. I have never tried to grow cauliflower. Never been a fan, so that's just why. Um, so I have no direct wisdom on these. It's a biennial, planted 2 times throughout the year, 2 separate harvests, 3-year seed viability. Again, we don't know. So the curds of the cauliflower, the actual heads, those curds are flower bud clusters. And if you eat them, those plants will never go to seed. So just like the broccoli, the cauliflower, the part that we consume is the actual flower and seed. We just don't let it mature enough. Flowering and seed production, like cabbage, cauliflower requires overwintering, just like the carrot we just read, to stimulate seed stalk production. But unlike cabbage, cauliflower plants won't keep well in a root cellar over winter. So it's hard. It's hard to keep these things to be able to flower in the northern areas where it gets colder. Fall planting in a cool greenhouse is an option. The plants need to be exposed to temperatures below 45 degrees Fahrenheit or 7 degrees Celsius for at least a couple months. The following spring, transplant outdoors to the garden. So it says that you can start these in the fall and keep them in a greenhouse where the temperatures stay below 45 degrees. It doesn't give me a low though. It doesn't say don't allow it to get below this. So I'm not really sure how you would do that. In warmer areas, you can sow cauliflower seeds in summer and follow the same overwintering protocol as you would for the cabbage. Okay, so your seed treatment, if you are lucky enough to get it to flower and you gather the seeds, just prior to planting, soak your cauliflower seeds in, that's 122 degrees Fahrenheit, 50 degrees Celsius. That just doesn't sound right to me. And it even says this may reduce the germination rate. So if you'd like to try it, let me know how it goes. That just doesn't sound okay to me. But that's just me. Follow your gut. Not mine. Follow yours. That's the gut that doesn't lie to you ever, you know? Okay, so our last one for the day we're going to cover celery. Celery and celeriac. I've never grown celery either. Just not one of my favorites. It's part of the parsley family. I believe just like the carrot. Yep. It is a biennial also. You can grow celery 2 different times throughout the year and have 2 different harvests. Seed viability, 3 years. Most of them in here say 3, 5 years, some 2, some 4. Spacing for seed saving, over a foot, a foot and a half, 30 inches for your celery plants. And you try to gather them from 10 or more plants. The flowering of the celery. The flowers are perfect, small, white, and borne in compound umbels with secondary clusters called umbellets, just like the carrot. Both celery and celeriac flower after a cool period, usually provided over winter. So you're not going to get flowers from celery that you plant in the spring that summer or that fall. Plants will bolt the first season if exposed to temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius for 10 days or more, but such plants will produce inferior seeds or no seeds at all. So even if you do get the chance to get that nice cold spell after your celery has matured, it's probably not going to be the greatest for seed gathering. Celery are insect pollinated. So again, trying to keep them heirloom, the isolation requirements. Recommended isolation distance is 1 mile. They will cross-pollinate one another. If you're growing both for seed, try hand pollination as described in carrot entry for best results. So we just covered that earlier. The seed produced by celery is a merocarp, which comes from a split schizocarp, a split fruit. I guess that's what a schizocarp is the fruit. Collect seeds as you would from carrots. See the carrot entry for details. Again, you can just rewind in the video a little bit and it'll cover all that. Cleaning and storage. When stems become brittle, rub seed heads by hand to remove seeds or place heads in a bag and flail. Again, it doesn't say to bang them this time or strike them against anything. You just flail them around. They're most likely very delicate. Don't have that real hard shell to where you could crack them. Screen carefully to remove plant material. That's just setting it on a screen. They're very small seeds, they will fall through and keep all your other plant debris on top. Seed treatment, blah, 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 118 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 minutes if you have a problem in your garden, 48 degrees Celsius. And this one says this is the longest I've seen, 30 minutes. Okay. Germination, celery seed.
I keep forgetting. I'm tired.
Sorry about that. Has been much studied because of its complex patterns of their mortarmancy. Okay, so their light requirements. Not sure what mortarmancy is. We encourage the serious celery seed saver to read the literature. Okay. The optimum range of soil temperature for germination is 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 to 24 degrees Celsius. Wow, that's the smallest I've seen. So you want your soil temp between 70 and 75. Don't sow until soil temperature reaches at least 45 degrees or 7 degrees Celsius. Okay, so you can start earlier. But it says warmer is better. So your celery seeds, you want your soil to be a little bit warmer. No cooler than 45 degrees or 7 degrees Celsius. The seeds require light for germination, unless growth under temperatures ranging from 50 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. Okay, so if you plant your seed in temperatures of 86 degrees Fahrenheit to 30 degrees Celsius or 30 degrees Celsius or higher, the seed will remain dormant. It will not germinate. That's the first time we've seen that in this book so far. So celery, if the soil is too warm and you go to plant it, it will not germinate. It will not take. I'm sorry if you guys are trying to message me. I'm not able to see. I have the sun in my eye. It's glaring off there. We're almost done with this one though. So transplanting your celery. Again, that's just starting it indoors and then transplanting it out into your garden. Wow, this is a long one. Start celery seeds for transplanting 10 to 12 weeks, 2.5 to 3 months before you expect to set them in the garden. Celery grown from transplants will have a smaller root system than those directly sown. So take care during transplanting. To increase germination, grow under diffuse light with 60 degrees or 16 degrees Celsius at night. In addition, keep the soil very moist. Do not allow temperatures to fall below 60 degrees or 16 degrees Celsius during transplant growth to avoid bolting after setting in the garden. And do not set out the plants before the temperature has warmed sufficiently. So again, it said you can't send your plants to bolt the first year, but that doesn't, most of the seeds that you try to gather there, they will not germinate. The plant just wasn't mature enough, but they can bolt. So yeah, be careful to plant your celery, it looks like, and wait for it to be warm, because once it starts bolting, that's it. It's done fruiting for that season. So you don't really want your celery to bolt the first year you plant it. And so celery, make sure the ground is nice and warm. You want to make sure your ground is nice and warm when you go to plant it. All right, it looks like our next video, unless anybody has anything. If there's anything you're growing that you'd like me to cover, go ahead and drop it in the comment section, and we can start with those. But it looks like we're going to be doing some greens here, some Swiss chard, Chervil salad, chickpea, witloof or chicory. I've never heard of either. That'll be interesting, and collards. And we might even finish up with corn. I don't know. I try not to do too many of these. I don't want to overload people on information. But it looks like corn will be coming up here real soon. And I have some good experience with corn. Now it's not just vegetables either. If you have herbs, trees, shrubs, flowers, anything like that, that you really want to learn about, that's pretty much any plant. It's got 322 different plants in here of all different varieties. So it's not just for vegetable gardening, all kinds of things. If you guys are looking for any certain seeds, just drop them in the comment below, and we can get into those on the next video. So this was from Complete Guide to Saving Seeds. Oh, it was my pleasure, Winston. Yeah, I love sharing this information with you guys. It's really, and once we get into how to just gather the seeds, we can get into preserving taste and scents and, things like that. Cross-pollinating and customizing your garden plant. But right now we're just going to get into the collection of the seeds and what requirements need to be done to get the seeds. So I usually end it with some words about loving your plant. So the food that they produce has love and good intentions in it. I'm not going to get too much into that today, but remember, food is your medicine. Your medicine is your food. That is the thing we're in our body to keep it healthy and strong. So if you're growing your food and you're really caring and loving it, you're going to get that back. If you're neglecting it, you might be lucky to get a little bit of fruit, as to where you can really get a good harvest from plants you love. So, all right, I'm gonna get out of here. I love y'all. Y'all have a great day. Yeah. Listen to that little voice. When you're doing your plants and they're talking to you, that's how they speak to you. You're not gonna hear it like this. They're not gonna, even if you get real close, it's not gonna help. You're not gonna hear it that way. You're gonna hear it in here. This is where your plants speak to you. So listen to them. When they give you ideas, don't ignore it. Listen to your gut. You may be the person who discovers the new best way of doing something that nobody's tried yet. So listen to your gut. And that's it for today. Might see you tomorrow, maybe not, we'll see. These are kind of random and sporadic. They're always going to be early, and if I'm feeling kind of frisky, maybe we'll get into the root cellaring book tonight. Or no, not tonight. It depends. We have our Iron Realm pre-show where we hang out and have a great day. Yeah, and thanks for joining me. These are a lot of fun. Even if there's only one of you, I'm going to keep doing them. We're going to get through these books and share some valuable information. So y'all take care. Have a great day. Good Times for All here signing out. As always, thanks for watching.